circa 2006. We just avoided the apocalypse, and the 7th generation of consoles are the pinnacle of video game technology, while the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii stand at the forefront with new hardware and AAA titles like Gears of War, Zelda. Nothing could outpace the old hardware. So, despite the advancements, the previous gen consoles were more commonplace and easier to get for dumb kids like myself. Yeah, you tried to get your hands on a Wii, you couldn't. This reliance on old tech meant that new games were still being made and marketed for previous generation consoles, whether it be a dual release like Star Wars The Force Unleashed, or a fully fledged standalone title like The Godfather, which remains one of my all-time favorites. These transitory new games for old consoles were innovative for taking the refinements found in the 7th gen games and replicating them in the 6th gen hardware, making for amazing games that are often and easily forgotten. And one of those great not so talked about games released during the switchover, and it's none other than Grand Theft Auto Vice-City Stories. Developed by Rockstar Leeds and published by Rockstar Games, it's a prequel to the immensely popular and personal favorite Grand Theft Auto Vice City, while also serving as a spiritual sequel to Liberty City Stories. Vice-City Stories was praised for its engaging story, improved gameplay mechanics, and of course, the ability to swim. Thanks to its success, the game was ported to the PlayStation 2 a year later, further boosting its reach. Despite that, we never saw an Xbox or PC release, making Vice-City Stories one of the rare GTA experiences, and the main reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place. Now you might be saying, Alex, what about Liberty City Stories? Well, that one got a mobile release, which puts it in front of a wider audience, so there's that. Vice-City Stories, on the other hand, is a game I've always wanted to play, but never had any real access to. The only time I ever came close was in 2013, when it was ported to the PSN for PlayStation. And of course, that didn't last long, since it was subsequently removed due to music licensing, a common problem with the older GTAs and any re-release they might have. Now, I did try playing an emulation of it a few years back, but it would emulate horribly back in the day. So it's not until the year of our Lord 2023 that I'm finally able to get my grubby little hands on a good looking version of the game. So without further ado, let's revisit those neon-soaked streets of the 80s one last time in this action-packed retrospective on Vice-City Stories. It's 2 years before the Vicecity gang takeover, and things are different. Not only has Vice City changed, but the type of protagonist also. Where we would normally start off as hardened criminals like mobster, gangsters, and even triads, Vice-City Story starts us off as Corporal Vic Vance, a down-on-his-luck military man and generally good guy, just trying to provide for his sick brother. Vic, who's stationed in Fort Baxter, doesn't have much going for him. That is, until we get called in by our sergeant, Jerry Martinez. Martinez is not a good man, and because of his position in the military, he's been dabbling in some questionable markets. Seeing us as an easy target, Martinez offers us a lucrative opportunity that we're reluctant at first, but considering we're broke and he's our superior, we really can't say no. This contrast between clean guy and a dirty city immediately piqued my interest and definitely influenced the way I interacted with the world. As you'll see, I really do try to keep the moral high ground, but more often than not, my hand is forced, which isn't a bad thing because in the end, it's a character story, not a role-playing game. So, as much as I want to influence our story, our future is unfortunately already written. That's a little foreshadowing for you. So we salute our Sergeant Martinez goodbye and make our way to the airport, setting off a series of unfortunate events. And right off the bat, it's a total nostalgia trip. The controllers, while a little wonky, are simple and easy to pick up. The controls feel really arcadey compared to the newer GTA titles, which is totally okay. With the most daunting aspect, especially if you never experienced the originals, being driving. While most modern games use the triggers to drive, there really wasn't any type of standardization back then, so you really had to adjust game to game. On GTA, the triggers are exclusively for camera control and drive-by shooting. A little antiquated, but you get used to it fairly quickly. Despite all that, the driving feels just as responsive and gratifying as I remember. Something about drifting to an 80s soundtrack just hits like a hurricane. Our reminiscing aside, we meet up with Martinez's guy, who had the most evil contraband of all, weed. We take good old Mary Jane, but not before being ambushed. something we're gonna become very familiar with during our stay in Vice City. But lo and behold, we can swim. I always thought it was egregious being in a Miami-based game and not being able to swim, but luckily they fixed that. We get back to base where Martinez beeps us, telling us to keep the weed at our place. Of course, we stupidly listen and get Mary Jane back to the base, giving us access to our first safe house, the barracks. They aren't much to look at, but it's home. And it comes equipped with a free handgun and a floppy disk where we can save our progress and skip the usual 6 in-game hours. Back in the office, Vic confronts Martinez about drug trafficking. It's not really our style, so Martinez offers gun running instead. Now, it's not too late for us to say no, but Vic isn't the type, so we take him up on it and travel to a shooting range near the port. What do you know? It's none other than Phil Cassidy, one of the only characters to appear in every game in the 3D universe. This also makes it his earliest appearance to date. Now, Phil is more than happy to take the guns off our hands, except some cholos have taken up residency in his old apartment, where he's keeping a stash. I thought we might be able to solve things peacefully, seeing as we're a man of the state, but things don't go as planned, so we murder everyone there.
Oh shit! Oh, get him! Get him!
So much for the high road. We clear out our apartment and get the stash back to base, where Vic is still paranoid about the weed in his barracks. Martinez, on the other hand, isn't. He's a lot more worried about getting his dick wet. So, we're told to make our way to Vice Point and collect a different type of Mary and bring her to base. What could possibly go wrong? Before we head over, we stop at Phil's where Martinez told us to pick up a gift.
Don't worry. Man, I'm getting too deep into this shit.
Things seem sketch, but we still go with it because we're dumb. We find her at a party near the ports where we try to maintain the moral high ground, but again just end up capping their asses anyway. We managed to get Mary back to the base by sunup, and what do you know? We've been set up. And just like that, we're thrown out of the man's army and into the streets. Our time in the military, while short, up to reintroduce us to the basic game mechanics of GTA.
The gun!
Mainly the driving and the shooting. And swimming? But moments like this, you learn who your true friends are. So, despite being down in our luck, Phil comes through with a place to stay. Again, not much to look at, but at least it's a roof over our head. But there's no time to rest in Vice City. So we make our way to Phil, who doesn't recognize us out of uniform. Phil is having some kind of feud with the cholos moving into his side of Vice City. So we agree to do a little hate crime with him.
Cholo bastard. There he is, cholo bastard.
Nothing brings people together like mutual hate.
Cholo bastard! Cholo bastard!
We make quick work of the cholo bastards and take Phil back home. It's a nothing mission, but it's always nice to see the big guy. On our way out, he beeps us about a potential contact and calls us a nice guy. I have to say, hearing Phil call us a nice guy just warms my heart. He's like a Labrador, a racist little Labrador. So we make our way to the mobile homes in Little Haiti, where Phil told us to meet him. With any luck, he'll be just as nice as Phil.
Marty?
We don't see Marty, but instead are greeted by Phil's sister, Louise. We hit it off, but are interrupted by subtle racism.
What do you want, boy?
So that's our new friend Marty. Right off the bat, I question how beneficial working for a guy living in a mobile home could be, but beggars can't be choosers. So we bite the bullet and see what we have in store. We make our way to the first spot, where Marty has us beat up some goons. Turns out little Marty's running a protection racket, and now we're a part of it. So much for the moral high ground.
I might have more work for you. See you around.
Back at the shooting range, we stumble onto Phil in the middle of an existential crisis. His moonshine is getting targeted by cholos. That and his daddy didn't love him enough. I feel that. We take a drunken Phil to the warehouse, and sure enough, it's been messed with.
Phil, don't open the...
But rather than doing the smart thing and getting clear, we go in for the liquor. And this is where I started to get my shit handed to me. This mission wasn't necessarily hard in the sense of mechanics, but it was timed. And you really felt it too.
Motherfucker.
Not picking up the crate on the first attempt was almost reason enough to start over, and I died a lot. Thankfully, Rockstar realized just how annoying getting back into a mission was, so they've added taxi restarts, which serve as a quick way to restart the mission in case you fuck up. Which, considering what we have in store, is gonna be quite useful. I was finally able to bring the 4 crates of moonshine, which brought some rightly deserved dopamine.
Yes!
While Phil deals with that nonsense, we stop by the trailer park where we trade some looks. After building up some sexual tension, Marty breaks up the fun.
If you're gonna dress like a whore, I'm gonna turn you out.
And I don't know if it's the PS2 graphics or just me projecting, but Vic's silence is extremely loud. Dog's ready to burst, but then again, we're broke, so we keep our mouths shut. Now this is by far the worst mission in the game, which comes pretty early, but again, it's not for difficulty but for content. It's a boring 3-part fetch quest. To be fair, it says a lot about the quality of the game if this is the worst it has to offer. After that boring mess, we're able to take our frustration out with Louise, who beeps us the good news. She's taking a break from Phil, and we're his replacement, so we head right over. Now, personally, I wouldn't go for the whole kid thing, but Vic is feeling romantical. So we share a session of fear and self-loathing.
Show me a fucking way out.
Which goes surprisingly well, as we score a date with Louise.
Look at us. What a pair.
I was initially worried it was going to be an actual date, San Andreas style, but luckily for us, it's a GTA race. Unlucky for her, it's a GTA race. But Louise isn't like other girls, so she handles pretty well. And the race itself was a short and sweet 2 laps, just how my ADHD brain likes it. We take first place, asserting our trailer trash dominance and gaining Louise's affection.
Will you call on me sometime, Vic Vance?
And since we're already at the trailer park, we might as well see if Marty wants to throw some racial slurs our way. Now, if you're like me, you're probably wondering, why keep working for this asshole? Especially now that Luis is gone, why not just cap him? Well, the Marty missions really serve more as an introduction to the Empire building. A new mechanic that hasn't quite opened up. So for now, we're just learning the ropes. Small business style, which boils down to blow up a car, kill some dudes, buy the place. But since we're nobodies, we're not buying this one for ourselves. Not yet. Back to Louise's, it's more drama. It's the damn brat and her damn things. They might have left Marty, but they also left their things behind. It's not really our problem, but we do it for the brownie points. Back at the trailer park, we're confronted by the quad bike losers.
Don't like the look of these guys.
Aren't they the guys from the quad bike race?
And things get a little racial, which naturally turns into a massacre.
Come on, amigo.
Even Louise joins in. Your typical Vicecity psychopath, just like us.
Ooh, she really can handle herself.
Back off, you damn.
We make a literal mess of things and drop Louise home with her baby
Vic
stuff.
Vance? I never knew I could have such a good time.
A great time? Oh yeah, we had a riot.
Back at the scene of the crime, Marty and his friends pull out the old southern favorite.
How high can you jump, boy?
We do an Uno reverse,
Tough, you inbred piece of white trash.
but
Why
are
don't you come
quickly
down here and
reminded
ask me
who
that
pays the bills. Things are getting tense, but we're not done learning the ropes just yet. So we keep toughing it out and save some hard-working ladies.
Just glad to be of service, ladies. Take it easy, girls. Look after yourselves out there.
Now, it's been a while since we've seen Phil, the man putting a roof over our head. So we head to the shooting range where, unfortunately for Vic, an old friend stops by.
Fuck you, Martinez.
Looks like Phil is still working for Martinez, which means we're also working for Martinez.
Which makes you my bitch's bitch. Figure that out.
And just like that, we're back to gun running. We take Phil and the guys to repossess a truck's worth of guns from a gang in Little Haiti. And things go pretty well where they probably shouldn't have. All thanks to the new quality of life additions added by Rockstar. Because now, mission vehicles won't take any damage from explosions. So, ram away. Back at the range, Phil feels that the vibes are off, and Martinez does not take that lightly. So he starts setting him up. Immediately recalling his own setup by Martinez, calls him out. But Martinez dodges, calling out Vic himself.
It's
the holier-than-thou killer. All these principles, you go around shooting people.
Which
do what I
he
gotta
does have a
do.
point.
After I trusted
Despite
an
our
asshole.
reservations,
You
we're
enjoyed it,
always
brother.
out there doing the
Admit it,
worst.
'cause you're a
What's up with
maniac.
that? And it works, because despite his track record and knowing damn well it's a trap, we agree to go with Phil. Well, stupid does as stupid is, and we go check on some goods with Phil. We arrive at a very inconspicuous warehouse, which of course is his setup.
Hey, fellas, Martinez.
Yeah, Martinez said bye-bye.
Oh my god, what? Who would have thunk? So we haul ass back to the range, burning tire and road alike, all while being chased by Martinez's goons. The silver lining of this experience is that Phil realizes Martinez is an asshole. So at least there's that.
Jerry wants us dead? Shitting asshole.
But there's no time to breathe because shit seems to be hitting the fan. And it's starting to stink. We have Martinez on our ass and Marty on our dick. So now seems like the perfect time to deal with at least one of the problems. So we rush to Louise, only to find out Marty has already taken her to the trailer park.
Animal, he took her. He's gonna do something wicked to her.
Wait.
And of course, we get there just in time to almost get splattered by a bobcat. Lucky for us, we pick up a bike and take Marty out San Andreas style, saving Louise from a toxic relationship. Or did we just make it worse?
I can't believe you killed him.
We take Louise to a compound downtown where we get access to our second safe house, which I'll be honest, I never used aside from this one time. It was just never really convenient. We also get access to a new outfit, which Bro, that's just CJ. I guess our little San Andreas stunt was pretty inspired. But things are not over just yet, because Louise brings up an excellent point.
Why don't you take over Marty's business?
It seems only fair we inherit the business, poetic justice and all. We gather some of the boys, officially starting our own gang. And with them, we finish off the remaining trailer park mafia in the city. And yes, that's what Marty's gang was called. And just like that, Vic dives further into a life of crime, as we begin to take over the protection rackets in Viceport.
The whole damn caboodle's yours.
So yeah, apparently all it took was a girl being nice for us to throw all our ethics to the side. It's pretty accurate. An eventful day becomes even more so as we get a beep from the airport. Something about a visitor waiting for us at the gate. Too bad they're gonna have to wait, because the Empire business mechanic has finally opened up, and we should probably talk about the game so far. And I do have to say the missions are a lot more engaging and involved than what I would expect from the early game / first island. At least compared to the pacing of the original Vice City and GTA 3. So far we have new features like mission vehicles that won't get damaged near explosions, mission taxis if you fail, police and hospital buybacks, which is a pseudo new mechanic that allows you to buy back your guns if you're wasted or busted. A similar mechanic was introduced in GTA San Andreas, but that was locked behind the Katie and Barbara girlfriends, which, like I said before, date missions are my least favorite type of content, so I'm glad they went for this. We get the best of those quality life improvements and mechanics from previous games, so thank you Rockstar. On a related note, let's dive into the new empire building mechanic, which allows players to expand their own criminal enterprise and gain control over those new little shops we've been seeing throughout Vice City. It's pretty much a mix of asset acquisition from Vice City and a gang territories from San Andreas, so the best of both worlds. Seriously, slowly clearing out territories and building up your own people, that is probably my favorite type of chef's kiss. Now, there are 3 main gangs occupying Vice City. The Cholos taking most of Viceport to the west side, the Bikers making a comeback from downtown to Vice Point, and most dangerous and 80s of all, the Sharks, who run Washington and Ocean Beach in the rich side of town. Now, the gang sites themselves include businesses such as brothels, drug dens, smuggling warehouses, and protection rackets, something we know a lot about. Each site has its own unique car and potential income, not to mention, the more you take over, the more you can expect assassination attempts from rival gangs, which makes for real strategic planning as far as taking over the city goes. You don't want to overreach and have all 3 gangs on your back. Now, this is also the perfect opportunity for Vic to work on himself for a change. Our hostile takeover from Marty drew the attention of the Cholos, so we go on that grind and clear out the Cholos from Viceport to Little Haiti, giving us access to some nice passive income, as well as the Repo Man suit, which suits Vic. After all that, we finally have time to make our way to the airport, where to anyone who's played original Vice City knew from the moment Vic mentioned his last name, that's right, it's Lance Vance, baby, the most insecure man in Vice City. And sure enough, Vic knows trouble when he sees it. You don't grow up to be like Vic without some serious family trauma. But despite that, we can't say no. He's our little brother after all. The trauma lingers as we agree to look out for Lance while he's here.
Yeah. Hey, come here, man. You won't regret it, baby.
We've managed to make something of ourselves during our short stay, but unfortunately, that comes and bites us in the ass, as the Cholos are back with a vengeance.
No, we kill you plenty.
This mission really put me in the ringer. It becomes a rail shooter with tremendous amounts of enemies, all firing Uzis at an alarming rate. Now, there's something about inverted free aiming on an emulated game that doesn't work well. But I can barely blame the emulation, because I remember aiming down the sniper in GTA 3, and what a shit time I had trying to protect 8-Ball. It's the game, not the player. No, what? It only got tougher on the second half, where you go off rails after a failed jump, and are ambushed from all directions. It's fun overall, but I can see it being annoying without the benefits of saves on emulation. But after a few hiccups, no, what? We're able to escape the Cholos and get Lance to his hotel. And it seems like we're getting a little too big for our bridges, and the Cholos aren't the only ones taking notice, as we receive an ominous beep from some stranger. This might be a sink or swim situation. Except, it's not, as it turns out to be a young Umberto, still played by the one and only Danny Trejo.
You look like you got some Cuban in you, lady.
No. I'm from Ohio.
The fuck?
Better yet, he was an associate of Marty's, not his boss, like I assumed. So if we want to keep that alliance going, we're gonna need to do some favors. But Umberto might be a blessing in disguise, as he tells us that his rivals, the Cholos, are actually working for Martinez, making Vic's rivalry that much more personal. So, working for Umberto sounds like the right step to getting Martinez off our back. Besides, he warms up to Vic pretty fast.
So show him your balls!
Job after job, we're finally ready to strike a major blow against the Cholos. Literally. With Vic's support, Umberto is finally able to deploy his ultimate countermeasure. So, we dive headfirst into the last Cholo stronghold, where we cause trouble while Umberto's men leave a gift. A nice farewell to arms. It's also the start of a new friendship. Umberto's time, while short, was rather sweet. It's always nice to see beloved characters make a reappearance, especially when it's Danny Trejo. He's just a gem of a person, and I love him. And things are looking pretty wizard for Vic, especially now that the Cholos really are gone.
Oh my god.
But again, there's no breaks in Vice City. So, on the criminal side of things, the bikers have started causing trouble and ordering hits, as they didn't like their new neighbors. So, we begin our hostile takeover part 3. After lots of murder and renovations, we force the bikers out of downtown, leaving us as the ruling gang over the west side of Vice City. At this point in the story, I was definitely expecting us to be on the second island, especially after killing Marty. That seemed like the typical point in a GTA story where things have gone to shit and you kinda need to lay low one island over. But hey, I'm all for subverting expectations, so let's roll with it. Because apparently we still have business on this side of town. And business is booming. We have the bikers still applying pressure, more territory disputes, and of course the usual mass murder of rival gangs. All in a day's work. Which Lance interrupts with a sketchy get-rich-quick scheme. He's apparently been making moves on his own, and managed to meet a big player in Vice City, one Mr. Forbes. Lance reassures us it's an easy job stealing an impounded car. Little did we know, it's filled with drugs. You know, despite Vic throwing most of his morals away prior, he's still trying to keep away from drugs. The one thing. Lance, on the other hand, doesn't care, as long as it makes him money. After some mad tricks and murder, we're able to jump the drug car out of the lot, only to get ditched by Lance. What an asshole.
Hey, what are you doing? Forbes doesn't know you, man. He wouldn't trust you.
See you later, baby.
Lance! You asshole!
Lance's contact appreciated the work we did for him, but it's not quite done. So we make our way to meet the mysterious man. Holy shit, he's huge. Now, I really thought that was Ken the lawyer for a good hour, but in reality, he's just another player in Vice City. Or is he? So, despite the fact we're doing quite well for ourselves in the protection business, Lance still manages to drag us down with him. And this is very much a recurring thing with Vic, and a lot of his contacts too, if I'm honest. They tell him to do something that goes against his morals. He actively tells them how it goes against his morals, and proceeds to do it anyway. Because Forbes convinces Vic to be the fall guy while he and Lance traffic some drugs. Great. Again, Vic is actively putting himself in situations where he can easily be set up. But I guess we're ride or die at this point, so let's keep on going. We managed to keep the cops off them, and more importantly, we managed to make it out without incriminating ourselves. Oh shit! Ooh! Only for Lance to break the bad news. Seems Forbes isn't the kingpin he was making himself out to be, but for once, we're not just taking Lance's word. So we make our way to Forbes to verify for ourselves.
Lance, what's going on?
You're a freaking cop!
And also for once, Lance is on the money, cause Forbes is a fucking pig, and he's gonna squeal. Forbes tries to run, but we manage to catch the pig fuck before too long.
I got a place we can take him. Come on!
But rather than turning him to a stew, Lance has the great idea of keeping him around. One step forward, two steps back. So Forbes, or whatever his real name is, tips us on an easy hit. Drug dealer, no bodyguard. Obviously things sound too good to be true, and that's because they are. The information was a bust, and so was Lance, who literally gets kidnapped. A whole grown-ass man. But as it turns out, the sharks are in league with the drug lord. So we make our way to the ports and jump ship. We make quick work of the crew, save our idiot brother Lance, and even steal some of those trafficked drugs they were talking about. So it wasn't a total bust, but definitely not worth our time. Especially when Lance and drugs are involved. Oh, fuck. We go back to Forbes to hopefully make things right. Except Forbes, expert manipulator, and DEA pig, baits Lance with more info on a huge coke deal. And of course he bites, again. So just like that, we're sent to a biker club. A gay biker club.
Bikers went to disco?
Yup, it's another setup. It's been like, what, 6, 8? We make our way back to the torture chamber where Forbes managed to escape during our little gay escapade. We chase the bastard down and put an end to it.
Oh, man! I didn't mean for us to kill him.
I
It's a
did.
little late now, Lance.
We might have gotten rid of Forbes, but it's really an out of the frying pan into the fire type of situation for Vic. Because Lance keeps dragging us further into the drug business. Well, at least we still have Louise to cheer us up.
God, you're here. I just heard your cat house is going up in flames. Are the girls okay?
Okay, never mind. And apparently fire levels are my kryptonite, because I had a very difficult time dealing with this fire as well. I couldn't figure out where the water was meant to hit, or if I was doing anything to the fire at all. It was just really hard to see. So I caved and watched the video, which helped a bunch. Similarly to what Kid Me would do with GTA 3. So that was nostalgic. But it turns out the fire was just the start, because our mom is here.
Hello, boys!
Mom!
Victor, put your brother down.
And she's utterly horrible, which at least confirms what I've been saying this whole time. This is why Vic and Lance are the way they are, especially Vic. It's mommy issues with a side of people pleasing. We let her stay and figure that going off with Lance is better than staying with mom. So we say yes and are immediately roped into another misadventure. You see, Lance is still after his own white whale. That big shipment of coke that Forbes mentioned a while back before we flattened him. So yeah, that's been keeping his attention. But just like last time, there's a catch. There's always a catch. The info we needed was first come first serve, and unfortunately we weren't first. So we make our way to Terminal C, where we can hopefully come to a peaceful agreement.
Where's my file, you mother suckers?
We run into trouble like expected, but we wouldn't be the Lance brothers if we weren't used to it at this point.
What the hell are they doing here?
We make quick work of the bikers, while Lance gets the files. files which throw us deeper into the world of drugs.
Take the file and get the hell out of my sight.
That being said, it's the perfect time to take a break from all that and see what Luis is up to. Maybe today we'll finally be...
Welfare said I was a bad mother.
Oh shit. Luis tries being proactive with her life, but maybe a little too much, as she paid a hit squad to take out a tax collector that's been causing trouble. So we take it upon ourselves to spare her from a life of crime. We are the holier-than-thou Vic fans, after all. We take care of the hit squad easy enough, and scare off the tax collector ourselves.
She's white trash anyway!
That's the way I like it! Getting us absolutely nothing. You get nothing.
So no head?
Back to Lance, Vic realizes just how close to being wasted, busted, and dusted he's been, especially since his brother got to Vice. So it looks like it's time to cut ties and break the cycle. Well, we try. It was close, but he mentioned Martinez.
Jerry Martinez. It's his coke.
And if there's one thing we can throw our morals out for, it's Martinez.
Fuck it. You know what? Let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is a real man. Let's pop.
We make our way to the shipment site and take out all of his crew without signs of the man himself. That is, until Martinez makes a debut in an Apache attack helicopter. That's metal, and what follows can only be described as a pure dopamine trip, as Vic and Lance drive the stolen coke across the city, evading Martinez and his goons, all while singing turns to Holy Driver on the radio. It rocks. Not to mention the explosive bridge crossing that finally gets us into Vice City, Maine, with the postcard being the unintentional cherry on top.
Ram it. Ooh, that's sick.
We blow to the cops, losing both them and Martinez along the way. Like I said, we lost them.
Cops? Where?
And like that, a world of opportunity opens up. So before we continue our drug escapades with Lance, we should see what Vice Point has to offer. First off, it's the new gear. Emulation on this side of the town carries a lot more guns and is conveniently next to Lance's mansion. Then we got our apartment, a 2-story loft facing the Chunder Wheel. Pretty nice if I say so myself. Which does have a working helipad. And for a small fee, you can get yourself a really small helicopter that happens to pack some heavy power. Now, things have changed, or at least things are different from how they're gonna be once Tommy arrives a few years later. The new mall is still being built, small businesses ripe for the taking, and a wicked cool Ferris wheel where none used to be. So let's see if we can carve ourselves a nice spot on this side of Vice City. And I think I know just the place to start. The bikers have been a pain on our ass for way too long. And after our little hostile takeover in downtown, they've been ramping up their hits. So it's time to settle the score. Similarly to before, we get all the strongholds but one, which has no vehicles outside for us to destroy. So, again, looks like bigger plans. Things are still looking up for Vic, though we might have a few £100 of coke to worry about. But hey, at least we stuck it to Martinez.
Now you know how it feels to get fucked.
That coke you ripped off belonged to the Mendez brothers. Now, we're all on their shit
It's the Mendez brothers. So our never-ending struggle continues. We might have gone Martinez off our back for now, but the Mendez brothers jump right on. You see, they're the real owners of the coke, the very same we stole. Obviously, we're gonna have to deal with that eventually. But for now, Lance has another great plan. So we drive to the mall and meet up with an up-and-coming filmmaker. And hey, another familiar face. While he and Lance talk business, we agree to help shoot a scene. A nice Dawn of the Dead reference. We do such a fine job that he actually agrees to buy off the stolen coke. Okay, things are surprisingly looking up. All we have to do is bring back the yayo. Well, there's trouble in the home front. Mommy and her new boyfriend had a little relapse, and all our coke is gone. All our stolen coke.
It's gone!
No.
What?
With no real plan B, Lance tells us it's time to meet the Mendez brothers. Not having much of a choice, we agree and head right into the lion's den. We meet the Mendez brothers face to face, and rather than fessing up, we implicate Martinez as the real culprit.
Yeah, it was Martinez.
Surprisingly, they give us a chance to prove this. Guess Lance isn't completely useless after all. So we set out to do just that. We take some incriminating pictures of Martinez turned state, and fabricate some documents making him, Forbes, the undercover Fed. Now, I gotta say, so far, I'm loving the way all the pieces are falling into place. The missions feel really well integrated with the story, and more cohesive overall. And as far as our conspiracy goes, the Mendez brothers absolutely buy it. But we're not out of the woods just yet, because now, we're working for the Mendez brothers, which is slightly better than sleeping with the fishes. Working for them quickly becomes very lucrative and exciting. Running jobs for them meant killing drug lords with sexy goons, stealing back coke with helicopters, and other high-end crap. But now that we have a good standing with the brothers and don't have to worry about being murked, we can focus on our own business, which, like usual, is in trouble. Big trouble. Martinez must have started talking because the DEA has us in their sights. All our places are bugged, and they're ready to make a move.
Will you shut up, you stupid gorilla?
Oof, friendly fire. We're in the deep end now, and it sounds like we're gonna need some heavy machinery to compensate. So we gain access to the RPGs at the Emulation, and things start getting pretty heated as we blow up the police antennas all across town. A star per antenna with 6 antennas total. Well, you do the math. Things get pretty hairy with the FBI. But after some serious trial and error, we managed to stick the landing, literally. And just like that, we're on the DEA shit list, but at least we're not in jail. So for now, we don't have anyone trying to kill us or incarcerate us, which means we can see about this Rennie character and their white snow. We deserve a break from the action after all. Too bad Rennie's an eccentric.
Ah, cocaine!
And in exchange for our help, he's gonna get us more buyers than we can consume. So we agree to help. And back to the movie making business we go, this time as a stunt driver. I realized that despite how unique these movie missions are, with the content and execution, they do get a bit boring when it comes to stakes. There's no imminent danger. Yes, I know it's all a game. But the film setting makes it feel staged. Pun intended? We finish up our stunts, and like Rennie promised, we get some info on a potential buyer, Mr. Gonzalez. Gonzalez is a drug trafficker working for the Spanish army, and in some desperate need of protection. Luckily for him, we're in the protection business, so we use our military experience to get this man to safety. By that, I mean I killed a lot of people with a helicopter. It was fun. So while he lays low, we make our way back to Rennie, who's got one more contact for us. Barry, the music manager. Our man Barry is balls deep in with gangsters, and of course, he needs our help keeping his client alive, who's none other than Phil Collins, which admittedly, I didn't realize was him till the very end of his story. You'll see why, but it really is an understatement how badly they want him dead. It's nothing we can't handle, so we make quick work of the goons, like really quick work. So quick that it kinda kills Phil Collins. He's dead? But glitches aside, we get him out of there and safely back to the studio, securing us a second contact to our list of yayo enthusiasts. Now, we don't get much time to rest as Gonzalez beeps us, which starts the shortest game of golf. You see, Gonzalez judges people on their tee game.
He's a terrible golfer.
And we just happen to be experts. So I guess he must really trust us, because he invites us to his place to make a deal. You see, Gonzalez has gotten a taste of capitalist consumerism, so it looks like we're cutting out the middleman. Or, in this case, the middleman is cutting out the top. As long as it's not us getting screwed, I'm happy. So as a show of good faith, we agree to help Gonzalez's little side deal. What could go wrong?
What the fuck?
Motherfucker.
We take the coke to the meetup, and would you guess it's another setup? Because it is.
Oh,
well,
man.
At least this one wasn't meant for us.
Out, bro.
But now we gotta clean up a mess that isn't even ours. Despite being coked out of our mind, we managed to find the assholes who ambushed us. And it's time to crash the party, literally. Thankfully, not all the coke got doused in blood, so we salvage what we can and take it back to Gonzalez as a make good. Too bad it's not good enough. Not only did we lose a contact, but we also lost a friend.
For our friendship, this is the end. Adios.
Motherfucker.
Well, at least we still have Barry and Rennie. So we crawl our way back to the movie lot to see if they need any more help, which naturally they do. Our boy Collins is ready for his big concert at the Hyman Memorial Stadium, and Barry is worried about safety. And rightly so. We make our way to the stadium where, sure enough, we get the mob planting bombs and causing trouble. Now, I didn't realize there was a bike you were supposed to hop onto at the very beginning, so I really spent 3 attempts on foot before it finally clicked. We eventually managed to clear out the goons and stop the place from blowing, officially securing the concert hall for Barry. Immediately after, we received the most delightful beat from Rennie, and apparently all that ass-grabbing and sexual harassment we've endured has finally paid off. Rennie has set up a meeting with Ricardo Diaz, the biggest dog in Vice City, currently, and he's our one-way ticket out of this mess. Having Diaz as a contact means a sure way to pay off the Mendez brothers and keep him off our back. But before we go barking with the big dogs, we should probably check up on Lance. And it's just the usual people trying to screw us. Things turn into a therapy session as Vic decides to open up about missing Louise. Which, fair, we totally ditched her. But not like we had a choice. Things haven't been easy to say the least. Lance expertly suggests we let out steam by killing some bikers who've been taking our yayo. But like always, things are shady when Lance is involved. Might even say sus. That's right, I'm relevant. We track the bikers down to a construction site where we suffer a little malfunction.
Oh, shit! Lance!
We survive the crash and make our way up to Lance, who lacks all subtlety. It turns out there was no stolen yayo, no thieving bikers. Lance just wanted a new bike.
Never mind that. Where's the stolen coke?
Yeah! See you later, bro.
Oh my god. Lance, you bastard.
Just like that, we're left
I don't
in
even
the
know
dust
why
by
I
a
bother
thieving brother.
sometimes.
So we head right over to his place to confront the coked out Lance. Expecting at least an apology, we instead get fucked and cucked.
Hey, Vic.
You piece of shit!
Shit.
Because Louise is fucking Lance. Okay, not really. She's only there for drugs. And she actually brings up a really good point. We totally abandoned her since we crossed over. Not that we had much of a choice, but again, she's right.
You're a phony, Vic Vance.
But we ain't got time to simp because there's always bigger fish. Lance has gotten heated, and he decides to take our coke out for a night in the town. So we decide to follow him in the most reactive vehicle in the game. Oh, shit.
Bitch, you're kidding me.
This little airboat. With high sensitivity, you can't move the thumbstick without doing a complete turn. It's whack. I managed to master the controls halfway through, which made it surprisingly rewarding. I was lining up the coke drop perfectly every time. We end up collecting the last bit of coke by sunup, keeping us out of jail and in the good graces of the Mendez brothers.
Did I do anything stupid in the last few days?
This would be the last straw, but we pick up a call from a frantic Luis. With the army man back in town, it was only a matter of time before we got fucked over. And I know I said we weren't simping anymore, but this one is kind of on us. So we make our way to the burger joint just in time to get ambushed by the 3 amigos. We make quick work of them and continue our chase. At this point, we're presented with 3 false choices, because no matter which car you check first, Luis will always be inside the last one. I'm pretty sure they also did this in GTA 3, and I feel just as scammed now as I did back then. We end up finding her pretty worse for wear.
Oh my, why am I crashing into everything?
Luckily the hospital is right down the street, so looks like simping is back on the menu. But with Martinez back on our ass, we're forced to expedite our little coke deal. Thankfully, Rennie gave us the ultimate contact, and it's time we meet. Ricardo Diaz. We arrive at the mansion in style, where we quickly learn about the rivalry between Diaz and the Mendez brothers, which could definitely come in handy. But more importantly, we have an out. Diaz might be a piece of shit, but he's got connections. Connections with the DEA. So, in exchange for the coke, the DEA is going to supply Diaz with weapons. Your typical pig antics. We get to the meeting spot, only for Gonzalez's men to ambush us. Looks like our old friend is still making moves. But so are we. We blow their minds with our amazing sniping skills, clearing out the ambush before the DEA arrives. That deal goes without a hitch, and we take the weapons back to the mansion, where we find our ex-friend turned ambusher being dealt with. You see, Gonzalez isn't meant to go out with a bang, but with a whimper. Diaz is amicably settling things with Gonzalez, who's demoted back to middleman and forced out of town. But he gets to keep his life, especially since we're running escort. In exchange for seeing Gonzalez off, Diaz is going to help us with the Mendez brothers. So, what can we do but say yes? Things go without a hitch, and we see Gonzalez off at the airport. You see, where he's not we get a beat from Armando, but with a whimper, who invites us over for a little chat. And with no time to lose, we make our way there to hopefully settle the score once and for all. Unfortunately, things don't really go our way. The Mendez brothers offer to forgive our debt, but we have to get out of town and surrender our empire. Which you would think Vic would absolutely go for, considering how often he talks about getting out. But like I said before, we're in too deep, and Vic is fully committed to his place in Vicecity. So we take a knockout for our pride and wake up in front of a firing squad. But we're the Lance brothers and can't be taken out that easy, I think. So we rig the place to blow and make it out by the hair of Vic's bald head.
We're gonna make it.
Hey! Now that's what I'm talking about!
Firing squad, but now we have a full-on war in our hands. Lance reassures us he's got a plan, and for the second time in his life, he doesn't disappoint. Back at his place, we're surprised by a gathering of friends.
Phil!
We get the return of Phil Cassidy, Umberto Robina,
Mr. Victor Vance,
and some random NPC. I'm kidding, he's one of Umberto's crew and a friend to us, which is exactly the type of support that we need in these trying times.
At least one of you has something up here and a lot down here.
Now, as far as team-ups go, this is the ultimate one. Like, this was my Avengers Endgame moment, and I was loving it. Umberto and Phil were some of my favorite characters in Vicecity, so seeing them come together, especially to help me, just makes me feel giddy. The only thing that could have made this any better was if Rennie showed up, but I guess it's not really his forte. The Mendez brothers are hitting all our businesses, so we split the group up, taking Lance with us across town as we put the herd on the sombrero-wearing fucks. While it's just more protection work, I appreciate what it sets out to do. It lasted an in-game day, making it feel like we really fought a war of attrition, making that dopamine reward that much bigger.
Umberto and Phil! They've been kicking asses just like us!
You mean we did it? We won?
And considering we just made a pretty big statement about our place in the city, I figured now is the best time to finally take it all over. The Sharks put up a real fight with their 4-wheel drive and some machine guns, but we put them down just like the others, making us the sole proprietors of drugs, prostitution, and smuggling rings. My top 3 earners. Overall, the empire building mechanic was a really fun time. Not only did taking over the city feel satisfying, but it also gave us a hefty passive income for us to play around with. Even the racket missions were more lenient and varied. Not that I completed more than one, but that's one more than I would have. The only sucky thing about this is how little it matters in the long run, because in 2 years' time, it's all going to be Vicecity territory. Just another problem with this being a sequel. But back to the game, things only amp up from here as we get a frantic beat from Rennie. Martinez is after Luis, and now Rennie is getting targeted by the Mendez brothers because of us. But we're nothing if not accountable. So we head to the film lot where we distract the Mendez goons who literally live next door. I guess they just crossed the street. Good for them. They eventually figure out where he is, so we make our way downtown where we save Rennie one more time before dropping him off at the hospital.
Turned on, Dr. Horowitz is going to need a chainsaw to cut through this wood.
Man, I do not want to know.
Speaking of, we find out Martinez isn't quite done with Luis. So we head to the hospital to patch things up and see if we can get a little date going. Except Lance is a cuck who needs our help. but that doesn't stop Louise from enjoying herself, which totally redeems her for me.
Business can be fun.
We take the hospital helicopter and rescue Lance off a burning rooftop. But our date isn't over just yet. We take our third wheel of a brother to enact some revenge. Gotta say, this was honestly a blast of a mission. They're really knocking Louise out of the water as far as love interest goes.
Beautiful houses down there!
We drop her off home, ending a successful date.
Which leads to one of the cutest, most wholesome line readings in GTA history.
I'm kind of in the middle of a war right now.
It's okay. I'll wait.
Back at Diaz's, Lance is coked out again, making shit deals in our behalf. Apparently, in exchange for a loan, we gotta break into the Mendes mansion and destroy some bearer bonds. Don't ask me what the hell those are. Doing this for Diaz is definitely gonna get the Mendes brothers more upset, but we're already in Schitt's Creek, so we might as well swim. Thankfully, Diaz has some connections, of the mechanical kind. It's the fucking Rocky IV robot, or the Nintendo one, whichever floats your boat. You take control of the Mastodon, who comes equipped with all your personal needs. All of them. Our mission here is to find the safe with the bonds, which is hidden somewhere in the mansion, all while executing our prime directive.
Domestobot, clean the study!
So things quickly turn into Maid Simulator 2006, as we're constantly forced into picking up trash, cleaning toilets, and other grading tasks.
Put that away.
Oops, sorry. After a bunch of attempts, I managed to make a beeline towards the kitchen and into the basement, where I found the Holy Grail, which to my disbelief was locked. Crazy, I know. This is one of those GTA missions that Kidme would probably get stuck on for like a month. It reeks of annoying. To open up the safe, you have to do a puzzle minigame, which, screw your math minigames, they have been the bane of my existence since Knights of the Old Republic 1. We guess the code, and Robot Kun lights the documents ablaze. It wasn't the most mechanically fun mission, but you gotta give him credit for trying something new. Now this is where I got the biggest twist of them all. Phil beeps us, thanking us for taking care of Louise. His sister. I totally missed it the first time he mentioned that Louise was his sister, so I was going crazy when I first read this. But I'm all about it. I love when they expand on the connection between characters and games, so yes. It's like, honey, the new GTA lore just dropped. But anyways, we go back to the hospital, this time for Rennie, which, holy crap, they must have gave her a knee extension on the side, cause she's ginormosaurus. Phil and Barry also pay a visit before the big gig, which, of course, we're asked to run protection for. But not before we help out Rennie one more time. We fly her out to the airport and say our goodbyes. Rennie might have been written as a satirical take on the transgendered, but honestly, they're one of the more well-written / memorable characters in the series. Rennie eats up the scenery at every point. There were rarely a mission with them involved where I didn't laugh. So, top-notch character in a top-notch game.
Oh, goodbye, darling. I'll send you my tapes. Think of me often.
We rushed back to the stadium where my dumbass made another realization. That's Phil Collins, and he's about to perform his hit song, In the Air Tonight. Which, if there were ever a song to represent the 80s, that would be it. And as to why I didn't realize it was Phil Collins, well, I'm stupid, and I only know songs by the lyrics and not by who sings them or makes them. Yes. So while he performs, we're up in the light rig, keeping things up. Literally. In a last-ditch effort to kill Phil, kill Bill, the Mafia tries to bring the show to a stop by crushing Phil, but like always, we are running protection. So, there's nothing to worry about. So with that, we get a pretty lengthy but engaging send-off to Phil and Barry.
Vic, what do you think of the show?
Killer.
Cheers.
Things seem to be wrapping up for us in Vice City, and so far, there's been some really good closure as far as characters go. We have Phil and Umberto coming back to help, Phil and Barry are off to tour the US, and Rennie leaves for Europe to do porn. It's a surprisingly wholesome time, so hopefully that won't detract from our own happy ending, right? But all highs eventually come down. Back at Lance, we get the bad news from Luis's sister. The Mendes brothers took her hostage. which understandably gets Vic
Plenty
heated.
more fishes in the sea, baby.
You get moving right now, or I'll shoot you first.
All right, I'm coming.
We drag an unwilling Lance with us, who quickly warms up to the idea when they blow up his car.
My car!
What follows is by far the hardest mission in the game. Where picking up Lance from the airport saw me getting serious, this mission made me emotionally upset.
Lance! Lance, get the fuck out of the way. Oh, you're so annoying, Lance. Why are you just not doing it? You're not shooting! Oh my god, Lance!
In it, you have to chase after Lance as he makes his way to the Mendes mansion. The problem is, there's a crap ton of enemy cars which distract them. It doesn't help that Lance sucks up bullets like it's coke.
Lance, you're fucking garbage. I fucking hate you.
So you have to be really good at pit maneuvers if you want to keep him alive. To add to the pain, your ride is whatever happens to spawn nearby, and sometimes that means literally nothing. So you're left standing there like an idiot. It doesn't help that since the cars don't count as mission vehicles, they'll take damage from any and every explosion. You'll definitely go through at least 3 cars before you know it. So in reality, it became a race against Lance to disable the cars and get to the island before he gets gunned down. Not very easy and not very fun. But after many trials and tribulations, we eventually get Lance far enough to hit a checkpoint.
Oh my god. This might be it. This might be it. Oh my god, we made it!
We make it close to the mansion and Lance just Terminators his way in.
Do not let them in!
Not sure why he couldn't do that before, so screw us, I guess.
Lance.
When we arrive, we make sure to clear a path, taking out some frustration along the way. Inside, we're ambushed by Armando for the last time, who pulls out a flamethrower, our only weakness. I try to blow him away, but apparently the RPG just doesn't work from this angle. So I ultimately settle for a body full of buckshot. We take down Armando for good and rush upstairs, where we find the dying Louise bleeding out. And with no chance of saving her, we choose to come for her instead.
We did have something special.
Make sure Mary Jo takes care of my baby.
Lance, on the other hand, is just fine. He's got that triple layered plot armor keeping him around. I gotta say, I was kinda shocked. I was under the impression that we were gonna ride off into the sunset together, but apparently not.
Alright. Okay, I'm gonna make it. I can make it, I know I can, man.
Ain't no rest for the wicked, so heartbroken and angry, we make our way back to Diaz, who reveals his master plan to take down Diego Mendes once and for all.
And bring the whole Mendes operation down! You want a bump, man?
No.
And of course, it's the craziest plan yet. It involves stealing an attack helicopter from the army. And despite Diaz obviously using us for his personal gain, we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So we set out to Fort Baxter, but not before getting a little help from our friend. We go to Phil's to ask for help, which he gives without a second thought.
You need a decoy. Then I got all the decoy you're gonna need.
He might not show it, but he loved his sister. Probably as much as we loved her too. We make our way to the fort and sneak in while Phil causes the scene.
Louise! Yeah!
I avoided killing any of the grunts for sentimental reasons, you know, I was there once, but things got complicated once we got inside the base. So we take care of the guards and open up the gates to the chopper. And of course, we Grand Theft Auto the shit out of it. And bid an explosive farewell to Fort Baxter, thanking them for their time and hospitality. Before taking down Diego, we stop at Diaz's for a quick tune-up, where we lay out things and settle the score.
When I'm done, we're done. Lance and I will owe you nothing.
Diaz's appreciation leaves us with an epiphany, which summarizes our time in Vice City pretty well.
I'm an asshole. I spent all my time running around, making morons rich, while my family fell apart and the woman I wanted died waiting for me to call.
We vow to never return, likely story, and make our way to Diego's penthouse, where we proceed to blow things up. We don't stay airborne for long, but somehow manage to land on the roof. The same roof we just blew up. Inside, we're greeted by the remaining Mendez goons, which are quite a lot. Unfortunately for them, we can't quench our bloodthirst until Diego is dead and Luis is avenged. So, we make a mess of things until we notice a precarious chopper making a landing. It's Martinez and his men. It might be double trouble, but it's our chance to kill two birds with one stone, or a few bullets. Despite a few hiccups, we deal with the entourage easy enough, and make our way back to the roof where we're ambushed for the last time.
Vic! I swear to God, I thought you were gonna salute me! Like
Things
Mendez.
turn into a very one-sided Mexican standoff, as both Martinez and Mendez try to blast us away.
Vete a la mierda.
You first.
We get real close and personal with Diego, and finish off Martinez with a belly full of lead.
Thanks for everything, Martinez. You're a great help.
Of course, Lance arrives fashionably late, but for once, we're happy to see him.
Okay, brother, let's waste these pumps!
Lance, it's done!
Playtime is over, bitches!
With our troubles finally laid to rest, we get in the helicopter and fly out of town, putting an end to our time in Vice City. Okay, that was amazing, but before I get to the general overview, I want to talk about the ending. When you think about it, it's definitely not your stereotypical ride off into the sunset, at least not the one I was expecting. In fact, things are left vague and non-conclusive, with Lance pushing Vic towards drug trafficking until the very end. You get the sense that the Vance brothers aren't done yet. At first, I took this ending as Rockstar giving us a reason for us to keep playing after credits, but for those who didn't know, like me, Vic has already gotten his ending, happening all the way back in 2002 at the start of Vice City. Yeah, that's Vic. He looks and sounds completely different.
100% pure grade A Colombian, my friend.
And dies immediately. Had I known that coming in, I probably wouldn't have defended Vic as much as I did, at least not in his character development. It makes aspects like owning half the city and the decision to leave things behind feel kinda shallow and non-important. But that's the problem with prequels, you ultimately know how it's gonna end. Vice City Stories did more right than wrong, especially when it came to the characters and their integration in the story, so I can't help but to praise that. Speaking of, the story. Whether intended or not, Vice City Stories was a subversion to the classic GTA underdog formula. This time we go from a moral military man to a morally bankrupt, nothing-to-lose drug lord. And it's that journey to degeneracy that really makes this entry stand out among the rest. That being said, it's that internal struggle of will he, won't he, that never really gets elaborated on past surface level thoughts. It's like my videos, they try breaking the surface, but they never dive deep enough to make it count. That's sad. They could have done so much more with Vic, but ultimately, his fate was sealed from the start. Additionally, the story also suffers from similar issues to Liberty City Stories, in that it's limited in what it can and can't do. For example, we know Lance is gonna make it no matter what, just like how we know that our decision at the end to step away won't matter. Our empire is always gonna crumble, and Vic is always gonna die in 86. So just a matter of how you look at things, the journey or the destination. Even with those restrictions, the story and mission integration feel a lot tighter than Liberty City Stories, and even San Andreas at points, which probably has a lot to do with nostalgia for Vice City and the smaller scale of the map, but what the hell. I did think it dragged a little when it came to the first island, but that was just honestly me expecting the game to be short and almost over. But no, it's a long one, and good. Touching on the difficulty really fast, I only ran into 3 missions that I could consider hard, with Lance's escort taking the cake, escaping the FBI a close second, and some fire-related mission for third. The rest were relatively normal for a GTA game. Not too hard, but not too easy. At least compared to previous titles with missions like the Demolition Man and Expressor to Go, which would take me days, if not weeks, as a kid. And again, it has a lot to do with the quality of life changes and improved game design on the part of Rockstar. Especially the buyback mechanic and the trip skip, saving me from a bunch of headaches. So, for most missions, things are only as hard as you make them out to be. No, but seriously, screw Lance's escort mission, that was ass. The characters. As far as protagonist goes, Vic is something special. Where others have a PhD in crime, Vic starts off cautious and with lots of reservations. It comes off as hypocritical at times until you realize it's part of his character. But like I said, I just wish it was elaborated on more. Vic's story is not a hero's journey, but more of a Greek tragedy. Lance Vance, on the other hand, is emotionally unstable, and a big reason Vic ends up dead.
Okay, that's them in the chopper. Alright, here's the deal. They want to
where Vic saw opportunity, Lance only sees despair and self-loathing. He's got issues. And it's this contrast between brothers that really drives the conflict in this story. It's an interesting advancement on your typical solo protagonist from previous titles. But I gotta say, my favorite thing about Lance is his retroactive characterization. We've known Lance since OG Vice City, but now we get a really good idea of who he is and why he betrays Tommy. I love it, even if it makes Lance into a bigger dickhead. Then we have Louise, our red-necked love interest. At first impressions, I was devastated. I was worried we'd be doing date missions for a one-dimensional character, but thankfully, Louise ended up being a blessing in disguise. While some missions like putting out the fire brought nothing to the table, the interaction between Vic and Louise always made up for it by being funny and memorable, and maybe even wholesome at times. Now, her ending, while tragic, really serves the story and Vic's transition into a crime lord with nothing to lose. So, yay, but nay? On the other side of the fence, we got our antagonist, with Martinez serving as the main opposition to Vic. From the start, he's written to be a dislikable asshole and the reoccurring presence throughout the game. It took about 2 missions for me to start hating the guy, which is exactly what I want from a villain. The Mendez brothers, on the other hand, are written to be the driving force of the second half, and as a contrast to our own relationship with Lance, with their inevitable deaths foreshadowing our own family's fall. Not to mention, Diego and Martinez's team up at the end feels well earned and like a natural progression of events. Even Larry, my least favorite redneck, served a purpose, showing us the empire building mechanics. So for the most part, characters were memorable and served a purpose. And that's all I could ask for. Rockstar is known for well-written characters, and I'm glad to see Vice City Stories made the cut. But despite that, there's one glaring issue with Vice City Stories, and frankly, most of the GTA 3D universe. It's the homophobic writing on the walls. I should interject that I have no real issue with any of the overblown stereotypes. In fact, that's kind of the reason why I'm here. It's funny.
Cholo bastard! There he is! Cholo bastard!
Cholo bastard! Cholo bastard! But the way most punchlines to a joke are, you're gay, or some sort of implication, well, that just wasn't that funny to me. And I grew up when calling your friends Gaylord was an everyday thing, so it's not like it's jarring or offensive, it's just stale and boring. But then again, I guess it's a product of its time. Not the 80s, but the early 2000s. Those small gripes aside, I really enjoyed my time in Vice City Stories. It felt like a combination of some of the best the series has to offer, making for a more than memorable time and appropriate send-off to the 3D universe, which is even more of a shame since Vice City Stories is not an easy game for people to get their hands on. Right now, the only way to play it is through emulation, which might actually be the best way, especially when it comes to graphics and content. Because if Rockstar ever decides to re-release it, it's gonna be without its original soundtrack. Another common issue with the 3D titles. So thanks to emulation, we're able to experience GTA Vice City Stories the way it was meant to, at 1080p and with a kick-ass soundtrack. But that was my experience with GTA Vice City Stories. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you guys so much for watching. Especially if you made it this far, you're the best and your parents love you. Let me know your thoughts on the video. This was my first game retrospective, and I wasn't too sure on the format, so let me know what you liked and didn't like. I could really use the feedback. The next game up should be Concrete Jungle, but don't quote me on that. So subscribe for that and much more. Stay poochy, and I'll catch you on the next one.